Today I'm going to reshare with you a really cool conversation I had with Rob Steckley, who's a world-class tennis coach who used to work primarily on a women's tour and was able to achieve really high results there, especially with Lucie Safarova, getting her to the finals of French Open. And he has unbelievable knowledge on so many things, tennis, life, you name it. Very close friend of mine and unbelievable coach to talk to, unbelievable person. And I hope you guys learn as much from this conversation as I did. Enjoy it.
My head is spinning. You took me for a joyride.
Dude, that was
How
amazing.
do you like the car? You like the car?
The car is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, when you said I'm going to bring the Cadillac, and I was like, okay, because I've never seen these cars live, and I definitely haven't been inside one of these. Fantastic. So when I saw you outside, I was like, holy shit.
You know what?
This
funny?
is a boat.
Yeah,
It's not a car.
It's not a boat. It's a land yacht. I take pride in my land yacht.
I like that. Yeah, it's really good.
It brings me joy. I mean, it's something that just has been on my mind for so many years, and just finally I pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the trickiest thing for me, was finding the balls to just do what I wanted to do, you know?
Okay.
So I think that this year was it was it. You know, I've been working so hard. My kids are getting older. My whole dream as a kid was to have one of these cars and to have two beautiful little girls and to just enjoy.
Yeah.
You know? So it was, when is the perfect time? It's never the perfect time. Now is the perfect time. Do it.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at my account. It's empty, but
That's amazing.
it's worth it.
No, I mean, I think this is very important concept, that now is the time to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we keep constantly delaying our own happiness, and when we chase something else and something that may be irrelevant, you know, and that's what I realized lately also.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we were talking about that. I think it's so important. I just, you know, I think I've been fortunate when I've been, you know, traveling and trying to find myself. And, you know, I've been always told it's not the right time. You gotta do more. You gotta do more. And then you get to that point where you've accomplished more than, you know, you set out, you know, to accomplish, and then all of a sudden it's still not enough.
That's
and it's
right.
still not the right time. So I think early on in my years, I just kind of set myself up for enjoying and making sure that, you know, a big part of it was to always enjoy what I was doing, even if it was the bad stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, you know, for everybody that's watching, the bad stuff was always something that propelled me to do even better afterwards. So no matter where I was, you know, whether it was in the trenches or up above in the clouds, I was just enjoying it as much as possible, you know, trying to find myself in the right balance there.
Yeah, I think if you're really searching for that happiness for yourself, and you're trying to go and chase it, that's when you truly, like you say, find yourself, and that's when you realize what you like and what you don't like, and that's how it can be pivotal in your life, what you decide to spend your next 10 years on.
Yeah. You know, I think that leads into a good point. I think role models are so important, but also having, you know, as a child, having role models that you look up to, that not necessarily your peers or your parents might approve of. I think that I had a lot of those types of people, and getting, like, my type of personality, I got very familiar with everybody. So I was somewhat considered a chameleon. And with that type of personality, it's not for everybody, but, you know, there's a lot of people now that I come across with juniors like that. It's let them experience, like, realistic, whether it's good or bad, because the child, let's face it, if somebody's smart enough to dig themselves out of adversity.
Yeah.
So let them, I did a ton of learning through that experience, but I was always sheltered, tried to be sheltered, and that's what kind of propelled me into the opposite direction. It was always do more of this, don't focus on this. And now as a coach and as a father, it's such a big part of me is just, you want to take a peek over that fence?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm going to advise you on the steps of what could come out of that.
Of course.
But I think just good role model leadership and somebody that really understands that person is so important.
Yeah. And I think, especially since you became a father and you're trying to apply the same concept to your kids, that's very important, because I see a lot of parents where they're trying to provide that shelter to their kids and trying to protect them from all the dangers and all the troubles, but it's impossible. The life is not about that. The life is about experiencing. They will never be able to be brave enough to chase their own happiness if they're constrained always into that bubble.
Yeah, I mean, I think kids nowadays, a lot more so. I mean, we hear that, I hear that from my grandparents or these stories. I used to travel 4 miles up this mountain to grab goat's milk. Otherwise, my parents, wouldn't be able to feed us. And we don't have any of that now.
Yeah.
It's at a click of a button. So I think that we need to allow the youth to experience a little bit more, because, let's face it, without that, then, they're not able to handle the adversity as easily or as well as, people that are trying to teach them. Right. So it's an interesting time. Is that what we're talking about right now?
I mean, we're just shooting shit.
This is just you know what?
This is open mic.
I like this. Yeah, I like this open mic. I've never actually experienced something where it just open, free.
Yeah,
I like it.
And that's the whole concept of the show, because I wanna. It just imagine there's no cameras, there's no nothing, and you just come over for a beer or for a drink, or we're just sitting and chatting and. I want to capture that experience because it's so raw, it's so natural, and usually through those experiences, through those conversations, that something really interesting comes out, and that's when you can see the true personality of that person, and you learn so much, and that's what I really like talking to people, like in just this laid back format.
Yeah, I want to give you a lot of credit because I do tune into your show, and I actually. I'm proud of you because I know that we've spent a lot of time talking, and I remember you saying probably 2-3 years ago that you kind of wanted to venture into this, and of course, me being the person that I am, I of course encourage it.
Yeah, man.
And it's something that I think especially our sport needs more of, just on all levels, because we have it at the very top.
Yeah.
But I think that's what tennis cool. That's what. My partner and I, Connor, had started. It's just more of, different perspective from everybody, because there's so many perspectives, and who better to tell these stories than the average person all day, every day.
That's right.
Because I think that we look up to so many of the people that are at the top, and I've had the privilege of spending the last 11 years with the very best, and I cherish that. But at the same time, I've always felt that in everything that I've been doing, all the the interviews out there, I've always tried to get my voice out there.
Yeah.
But my voice is never the proper voice until you've won a slam.
That's right.
And I feel that now with these podcasts and everything readily available to everybody, I think everybody should be doing a lot more of this, because I find it fascinating talking to everybody behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Whether they're the best of the best or the people that are trying to crack in. I know we've spent a lot of time talking about, your goals and where you want to take things and how you want to evolve as a person, and always wondering what is kind of on the other side of the fence where, it's the ATP and WTA and the higher level and stuff.
That's right.
And, funny enough, I think that a lot of people just put on this facade and the same answers all the time.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see guys like Kyrgios and there's, Sasha, who coaches Kiki Mladenovic now. He was Osaka's coach.
Yeah.
And there's a handful of, I kind of put myself in that bracket of coaches, younger, that are kind of on the fringe of, classic cars and stronger personalities,
right.
and just kind of doing what we do and finding success there, and hopefully, breaking the mold of what is accepted.
I think when I first met you, I mean, I heard many things about you, and then I was like, oh man, I really need to meet this guy because because he sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And when I met you, and
that's what my roommate said in college.
We'll get to that at some point, but I was like, this is what I think we're missing in tennis, because I feel like tennis can be so boring at times, from kids' perspective and from players' perspective, and I think we need a little bit more of like that rock and roll in tennis. My personal opinion. Well, you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you bring up another good point. It's fascinating because, the guy that has the answers, and I guess I'm talking in third person. I'm talking about myself, but with the players that I've worked with, it's a guy that likes to headbang in his hotel room by himself, and think he's a rock star, and then, just live the way I live. But the thing is my brain operates at that frequency, at that pace. First and foremost, I mean, through the years of the ups and downs, eventually you get to a point where you're comfortable and confident about where you are in life. And, this is what I do. This is who I am. And if I tried to be anybody else other than that, then I'm up, and I think that leads, I think I'm cutting myself off, but if I played that role that a lot of people, I think, would like to see while I was growing up, it could have gotten me a job, like a secure job.
That's right.
But it was the same thing. You better hit more forehands and not throw your racket, Robert. You'll never win the nationals. Well, I won a handful of those. Never made it.
Yeah.
And they were right to a certain extent. However, if I had somebody that was able to do what I do now, where it's like, if you're going to do that, no problem, let's go. I got 20 minutes to do that if you want, or we can do this. However, if it goes any longer, I got time, because that's what I do with my players.
Yeah.
I relate to them, and so that's so important, just to be able to be yourself. So I think my point, if I bring it back, is just making sure that you're comfortable being yourself, and rock and roll. If that's what it is, that's what it is. It should be allowed,
Yeah, I get it.
And here's another story. I'll just kind of piggyback off of that. Is like, when I was a kid, I daydreamed a lot, and that wasn't okay. It was like, you have to be more serious. And it's in my head, it's, I'm doing everything I can, but I don't know why I'm looking up there and saying, I wonder if the bird kind of flies up there. It's no clue. But then when I tune back in, 100%, and then I won 7 points in a row. But that little space, it's like, where does it come from? Mm-hmm. And always hearing that space is not good, right? Later in life turns into being a creative.
Yeah.
Right. But I see a lot of that with kids, juniors, while I'm off the road. Like now, I worked with a great junior, and he loves to do that.
Yeah.
He just kind of spaces out. Now, if I broke him down, which kind of 2 years ago, we tried to do it a little bit more, because he was, one of the top juniors in Canada. And so we were trying to work at a pace when I had gotten him where, I felt we need to tone things down a little bit. I got to understand this kid. Mm-hmm. What drives you to play tennis? Why are you playing tennis? And if you want to daydream for 2 days, we're going to daydream for 2 days because I want to figure it out. Because once you can figure it out, we can slow the process down, and then we can get to maximizing everything.
Yeah.
But that's where I think new style and coaching will come into play. That's what I feel a lot of what you're capable of doing is there.
I appreciate you saying that. And what really fascinated me about you, and we just spoke about it off camera for a little bit before we started shooting, is that how important it is, and you just pretty much said it, the personality, how important it is for you to figure that out. What motivates the person. Because one of your mottos, I guess, every time, like sometimes I would see you like passing behind the curtains at Veneto at the club, and you would say like to motivate and inspire. Like that's what you keep like saying. That's what one of your goals. Like, and really it shows in every work that you're doing, whether it's that junior that you're working with, whether it's Lucie, whether it's another player, it doesn't matter, because that's what drives you. That's what you really want to figure it out, what drives that person. Because tennis is becoming secondary, right? Because I mean, it's all about once you know the person,
I did that with Dennis. We came in, he was a strong personality. I won't get into it, but there were things right away that I said, you know what, I'm going to roll with it, because that's what I need to do. I want to relate as best as possible to this kid to figure out what his most confident moments are, what his weakest moments are, and everything in between. So the more somebody like that, a coach can relate and do that, I think you'll find quicker success. So being able to tap into that, and so that's what I try to do, at least, and then from there you can just build out, and build the formula of what you want to tackle, on court, off court, and just building. I think a lot of it is just character shifting character. That'd be a horror movie. That'd be interesting, but shapeshifter.
That's another podcast, another show.
Another one, But character building, and that's what I try to do, because let's face it, I think that as coaches we really try to do what we've always learned, and I think what I lacked, and when I meet a lot of these people that come to me, they're usually the special ones. It's never the person that can hit 6,000 cross courts with their eyes closed and doesn't say a word. I've never really worked with anybody like that. Maybe I have, but I don't click with that, you know. And a lot of what comes to me is sometimes introverts, extroverts, but they always have an interesting character about them. And whether it's trying to bring them out of the shell or tone them down just a little bit, but that's what I find fun. It's for me it's not a job. I try to take the job out of it. It's just more about like what we're doing. Like, hey, you want to hang out? I got time.
That's right.
I'm going to focus. Let's see, let's become buddies and see where we can go with this. Now, luckily through the years, I've acquired all of this experience and knowledge with the tennis part. So when I feel we can tackle that, or as much as possible, because sometimes, players can digest tons of information. I'd love to work at that speed. But outside of that, there's a lot of downtime. So if you don't have that outside of, the court, then, for me, then it becomes a job. So
it becomes tough. It becomes a routine, and it becomes just like any other 9 to 5 stuff.
Yeah. And, 9 to 5 is, it's not for everybody.
That's not.
I try not to put a number on anything, even if I were to do a 9 to 5, I try to figure out a way in there to not make it a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
That's, waking up at a different time, whatever it is. I operate like that.
But that's your personality. That's where your creativity comes in. You're thinking in a different way. You're not okay with just the mundane, and like I know myself, I cannot stand the routine, and I cannot stand like predictability in my schedule. I want to mix things up. I want to do crazy shit once in a while. I want to, like I'm that kind of guy who, like, it's okay for me to go to Mexico for 2 days to see a girl. Like it's for some people, like,
listen,
what
I just bought a Cadillac.
Yeah, no, so you
that
get
is my side chick.
so you get it.
Yeah, that's my side chick.
There
Married 2 kids with a side chick named Caddy. Listen, whatever gets you to make, like, have a clean slate so you go back to being 100% is
That's right.
key. So, yeah, I commend you for that. I mean, that's what I was saying. I could sense that, and I get a lot of people, I guess DMing me and sending me emails, and I don't even know how they get my email, but they do, and it's a lot of people that feel, sheltered and stuck in a box. They feel like, I'm doing this job that feels like a job, that I don't feel my personality, fits well with this.
Yeah.
But I feel that, if I don't, I'm going to get fired. And I said, how long have you been doing that?
Yeah.
I literally couldn't care less about if I got fired or not.
Yeah.
When you break it down, it's like, I'd rather have a job and work constantly and everything go great. But let's face it, it doesn't. And I accepted that years ago, when it's like, I'm in the principal's office constantly when I was 6, 7, 8, 9, not for being a bad kid, just it is what it is. So I just accept it. So, I think the sounding in here is a fan, guys.
I know, and the quieter you speak, the sexier it gets, and it can turn into a completely different show real quick.
Listen, I've been waiting and wanting. You're right, though, huh?
Right.
We can get intimate, right?
It can turn dirty real quick here.
Oh man, I'm gonna take a sip. I'm heating up, ladies and gentlemen. Which angle are you gonna be using today? Open mic, baby. I like it.
Whatever. But when did you? Because it takes a lot of experience and a lot of discovery, a lot of soul searching, I guess, to come to this philosophy. Like to really kind of let go. And at what point did you realize that it's like, I'm just gonna fucking go with the flow?
I don't. You know what? There hasn't been a particular moment that I really just said, I'm letting things go. Yeah. I just have always done that. But, being Eastern European, growing up, I grew up with a tough upbringing where it was, if you're not first, you're last. Mm-hmm. And going through that pattern of feeling the need and always having to do good drove me. But at the same time, because of my parents, who, by the way, are super rad, I know that, every parent tries to hide it. I remember my parents were super rad, and I was going to be a rebel regardless, and they tried to probably mold me in that sense, like, man, we were pretty badass, so we got to make sure he stays in line. And then I had my old school grandparents telling me, you got to be proper, you got to do this. And it stuck with me to this day. So that nice melting pot created this personality, this strong personality where it was, I don't want to do wrong. However, if I did, I'm gonna fuck you up. I don't care. Like, you just, so get it. I guess the easiest way to explain it is trying always to be number one, no matter what it was, And if I finished second, then I'd go into the second personality where it was like, you're telling me something. Well, now I'm like, I don't care. because it was a defense mechanism, try to cope with not being number one.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually through the years and it turned into success, but then failure and success, failure. And eventually I think it was, you know, how much time you got? Because I mean, I usually don't ever tell these stories, but I mean, there's so many layers to how and why it is, you know, and it's just
go for it, man. I mean, we can
but I
shoot.
mean,
I have another pack of batteries, man. That's like, we can shoot the.
I think the easiest way is like, you know, I'm you know, I got stories all over me with my tattoos and you know, it was just about finding myself through those years. And I think always understanding that no matter what I was going to do, I literally understood that I can get out of it and do better. So that kind of shed this feeling of safety. Like I need to feel safe, you know, like I didn't care. So I kind of knew that. I grew confidence in that through the years. And then of course, you know, go down the wrong road, really bang up. All of a sudden you see what you created kind of slipping away. It's like, no, let's go. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you know, you create a speed where, you know, people are trying to tell you stuff and it's like, dude, stop.
Yeah.
You know, and you keep going. But then you obviously sometimes, as you know, you're trying to mature, you tune out some of the good stuff.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I think it's only until recently, I mean, I got sober 2.5 years ago, and that really was like a massive life-changing experience. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, with all the bad that I thought was nothing, I was covering up through the years. And as you get older and older, there's a lot more time on your hands where, you know, it's just like, what do I do with it? And especially out on the road, you know. So I think going through that sobriety phase was mm-hmm. something huge for me, which I'm now able to share to everybody, because it really is, I think, you know, a massive step forward for me, because I was able to experience life in its like purest form.
That's right.
Because I was able to really let go of the fear of judgment. Yeah. You know, so I guess, you know, 2 years ago, I mean, I'm constantly going through these changes.
What you're saying is amazing, because you're basically saying that being open to all these experiences and trying and this is what constantly navigates you to get better in life. Mm-hmm. It's not the same, you know, that it's always trying and
constantly
giving a taste of what it is to, like you were saying, to do even some bad things, you know, just to know, is it for you or it's not for you? Because good, bad is very subjective.
Yeah.
Very, very subjective for every person. And really to having a taste and figuring out, is this me? Mm-hmm. Is this not me? And this is how you arrive at where you are now.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the story's different for everybody, you know, and especially parenting. It's so hard, because I don't even know what I'm going to be doing with my daughters, you know, and when I look back at the way, you know, I grew up and I was handled, it's like, what do you know at 20, you know, and at 25 and 30? So, you know, nobody has the answers, but for me, when I'm trying to give back now, it's you know, even in this type of podcast, it's just trying to be as true and honest as possible now, you know, and I think that's where I found success, mm-hmm. you know, and that's where I want to keep going, because I've never been any different. It's just the fact that, you know, you gain a whole bunch of success, so to speak, and experience. And so I like, you know, to try to get into a deeper voice more than see how easily distracted I know. That's it. That's where somebody would tell me. But you know, 1,000 thoughts are going through those bubbles right now.
That's amazing. Let's talk about the bubbles.
Wow. And that's it. That's how you lose it.
Yeah, man. Perfect. Cheers to that. This pause is brought to you by sparkling water.
Wow.
With bubbles.
You should get a sponsor.
I'm not that big yet.
But I feel truly this is honest. I really do feel that you can go somewhere with this.
Okay.
I think you should continue.
Definitely.
You're very open, you're honest, and you're very smooth. You can get people to talk. So I think that's a big strength.
That's good to
hear.
Man. I mean, that's the whole. I mean, I didn't like invest. You can see some investment going on in here, and I'm not saying it's a lot, but it's as much as I can at this point, and I'm constantly looking to improve, and I'm passionate about it. I like talking to people, talking about tennis.
Mm-hmm.
I love the sport, and I mean, having guests like you and many more who I plan to invite, it's amazing. This is what life is about, man. Just to sharing experiences and fucking that ride that we had. I mean, come on, like when would we?
You want to hear something?
Yes, I do.
If we do another one, I would love to do another one. What we need to do is mic up the car and go for a ride and do the podcast while we're driving. And what? Right? Mic it up, go for a ride.
And it's like a vlog / podcast as you drive.
We'll have the camera set up. We'll bring the audience like this, but we'll go for a drive. We'll go through the country.
Yeah.
All the way down into traffic, and we'll see how we deal with adversity when that car stops.
But are you for real though?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's do it.
I mean, we'd have to just look into how could we get the proper mics and stuff.
Listen,
so the audio is not.
We'll figure it out.
But I think how
we'll get the cats. We'll figure it out.
But wouldn't that be interesting? Driving around the city, talking. I mean, hey, listen, I'm not gonna lie. Now that I think about it, Seinfeld does something like that with
his
matter, right?
There's carpool karaoke's, whatever, or like.
Right. So I guess I thought I had something genius up there, but no, I have seen this before.
No, but it's not about like being like super authentic. I mean, that's a cool idea.
But I mean, talking about subjects.
That's right.
Rolling through different sceneries and taking in the experience. That's amazing. I mean, I think it would be great.
Yeah, part 2. Boom. This summer, later, done. September or whatever, August. So what's your plan? Speaking about September and August, like we're making plans, but I know we talked about your plans a little bit. What's next for Rob?
I don't know.
Okay. I love it. Okay. And that's the type of answer I would expect. It's like whatever.
I don't know. I mean, of course, I don't know is what I like to say, but I've been talking.
Yeah.
I have. Don't get me wrong. I'm ahead of myself.
Yeah.
I really enjoy working with Ashton. Okay. Spending my time here. I had made it a priority after working with Dennis that when that was to end, I was going to do me because I had gone from Lucie to Dennis.
That's right.
It was an action-packed almost 2 years straight. And really, when I give, something to my projects out on the road, it's 100%.
Yeah.
And I've been getting better at balancing the father-husband thing while I have a project out on the road. But I'll be honest, I haven't been the greatest because I like to win. And when you're out there, it's all about winning, Take aside, of course, what I told you about, the journey and everything.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
of course, I mean, you're a competitor. Yeah. You're doing it not just for, like a fuck.
Why, truth be told, a lot of coaches are lost. Some, ones that have had a ton of success earlier might not want it as much. Some people are okay with it. Some people don't really understand. I find that out there on the tour, a coach needs to want to win, but also understand that winning isn't everything.
Yes.
It's hard to explain because, like, when I say this, it's like winning almost becomes everything. However, I am so good at distancing, the competitive spirit away from the relationship that I find this just like hang out, traveling the world, we're buddies like this. But in the back of my mind, it's that little kid that's like, if you're not first, you're last.
Okay.
And so I have a great way. I don't know what it is, how it became, but it just, I can detach like that. Well, I'm getting better, but you know, this goes back to like,
yeah. But even like, sorry to interrupt, but even your hanging out is about winning long term, no?
100%.
Because that's what we talked about. It's
smart little boy there.
it's
It's all about. Hey,
all
listen,
about-
right now I'm trying to win you over without even realizing, you know,
That's right.
I'm as honest as possible, but I would like to leave here with you saying, Dad, I had a lot of fun with Rob, you know,
I mean,
as opposed to, man, that guy is so average.
no. I mean, you
But-
know that you won,
Right?
You won me like a long time ago. That's that's how you know, because that's why you're on the podcast to begin with. Dude, I mean,
You know, but at the same time, if I leave here and you're like, yeah, they got such a tool, at the same, yeah, sure. You know, like,
yeah.
so there's this, I don't know what it is. It's just, I come full circle all the time. It's like, I care, I don't care, but I want to win you
But
over.
at the same time, exactly.
You know?
And I guess like what people are, like the pros, what they want on the road, and again, feel free to correct me because I didn't work with anybody on the tour, but there's already so much pressure around. There's so much, like, everybody gets it. They're there to win as much as possible, and then they don't need a coach who always kind of like, let's go, you know. It's like that's the last thing they need.
Pretty much. And that's what I really truly like about the tour. That's what I think, you know, I've done 10 years like that, and I'm just now getting more comfortable with really working at a slower pace with our Canadian juniors and all those levels in between.
Yeah.
It's right after playing, I jumped right away into getting an opportunity, and I just stayed out on the road, and I was actually fearful of that because I didn't know, I didn't have any experience. But then once I got used to it very quickly, it wasn't any different than competing. And so you're absolutely right. It's slowing the player down a lot. I mean, I was doing that with Dennis, but you know, it's a process, and that's having a big team with all the teams I've had the pleasure of working with. It's making sure everybody's on board, because when it's one-on-one, more so with Lucie, we had, but it was really, I mean, she just, what do I do? Type thing. Whereas in a lot of the other ones, there was a lot of noise. And a lot of the time with me, it's never having to pick my player up and say, giddy up, we gotta go. You know, they're already,
That's right.
you know, established players, and they want it. It's, now we got to learn not to want it too much, to tone it down a little bit, when to go up and down, and find everything in between.
To find yourself again, to learn about yourself, what drives you, and how
But don't get me wrong, there was many times as a coach, you have to take yourself out and remember sometimes they need an ass whooping. Like there are times that,
what would be that time? Can you be, I mean, you don't have to name the player, obviously, but
okay, let's say it's end of season. I haven't had a player yet that's just saying, giddy up, I'm in Asia, giddy up. You know, after playing 9 months of the tour, grueling day and day out, you know, is that us?
No, that's
like outside, right?
Probably some Asians driving their Lamborghinis.
Yeah. Okay, but it is live.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
this
it
picks
is
up. Wow. I'll make sure I don't fart. Where was I? Yeah. At the end of the season, right?
Yeah.
Everything becomes an issue. Hotel, flights, practice courts, you know, and in matches, you'll find players just tapping out a lot sooner. Practices, not tuned in to, you know, breaking things down as simple as they need to, rushing, overhitting, wanting to just kind of throw in the towel, you know. You'll find players maybe at the end of the season who haven't had a great year, and they haven't established themselves yet, but anybody that I've worked with that has kind of already proven themselves, it's like, dude, enough, man.
I'm out.
Tap. So I'll check in December when we start back up for the next season. And that's where sometimes I've had to say, no, your ass is going back. There's no way around it. And define how you approach a player is always different. You know, it's one player will need a firm talking to because that's their background. You know, let's say, you know, Europeans have this tendency to fall into feeling sorry for themselves sometimes, you know, and they need that. You're not good enough. I'll crush you. You lose your sack. You know? Yeah. And they're like, how dare you talk to me that way? And I'm like, well, you suck. You know, they're like, talk to me like that one more time, you're fired.
Can we continue the podcast in this accent, please?
Yeah, absolutely. You know?
Yeah, I get it.
So I try, whatever their background is, you know, try to tune into whatever gets them, you know, and I'm talking about Lucie on this one. I can be very honest, because if she ever watched this, we joke about it, because that was a big one for her. Was I almost felt guilty. Like, it's like she's looking, what do I do? And it's like, if you told her, it's okay at those moments, she just still holds back, feels sorry, and doesn't want to go that extra yard. I'm okay, man, you know? And so I would call myself out, or even in practices, like, you suck.
Yeah. But that would depend again on timing of the year, because sometimes you would say that's fine if right.
And we're talking about mature people here, you know.
Yes.
Like I definitely don't handle fresh faces like that. But it, like I said, it's always different. I mean, I can't tell you so many different experiences with different players and trying to motivate them, but yeah, having to be pretty firm is something that I had to work on, right? Because, they need to piss me off. And so a lot of the time, because of that need to win for me, it's, I'm here busting my ass. I don't care if you win or lose, but you're not wanting either. And we're in this no man's land, and I'm uncomfortable with that. Now, if they push me to the edge, that's when it's easier for me. But finding that balance was always more challenging, because you don't want a player to feel like you're getting down on them.
That's right.
But I'm pretty comfortable now with just usually I don't have to, but there are moments.
I mean, they're pretty motivated at that level. I mean, they know why they're doing it. Like you said, it's mature professionals. They already.
That's what themselves. I like. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Like about that is there's so much off the table.
Yeah.
And you can really get to the meat and potatoes of things.
That's where I struggle sometimes as a coach, because I get to work with a lot of juniors and younger ones also, and they're not really clear, and that's where I lose my shit.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are days when I just lose my shit on just maybe the simplest thing that they don't do. They're like allowing certain things that just piss me off. Like they're not into it right away.
I get it.
And it just blows my mind. I get it. I can't stand it. And that's where I have to work on myself a little bit to kind of calm down a little bit. And
that's why you go to Mexico.
Exactly. Yeah, that as well. And but it's just like sometimes it gets really tough. But that's where I really like your approach, where it's kind of like, okay, you know what? You decide.
We got time.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as you have time, anything can be solved.
Yeah.
It's when you get into the rat race. And that's what, I truly love about the road, working at that frequency. It's just so fast. But I'm such a sketchball that, that's the frequency that I work at. Grew up on heavy metal. It just like,
what's your favorite bands?
Oh man, I mean, I'd have to say Metallica.
I mean, are you serious?
Metallica.
I fucking love Metallica.
Megadeth, Slayer, Pantera. I mean, all the greats.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was brainwashed as a child with them. And then, of course, I got into the good old Dirty South rap scene. And anything that's hard. Anything that's, you know, that just sky high for me.
I was, I think, 9 years old when I first heard Metallica. One of my father's friends forgot his CD at our place. And I was like, whoa.
Wow, huh?
Master of Puppets.
Wow, Master of Puppets, eh?
Yeah, the third album.
So I got in, it was grade 8, and one of my best friends at the time had asked me what I want for my birthday. Of course, again, my parents, he's not going down that road we went through. So you're going to listen to, you know, the ABCs. I'm like, Mom, I'm in grade 8, man. And so I had him secretly get the cassette, and it was the Black Album, and I stole my parents' cassette player. I remember a Sony. It was nice. It was so rad, man. It was
Walkman?
Yeah, Walkman.
Yeah.
I brought it into school every day. I left the tape hidden, packaged up outside underneath the fence of some dude's property that was backing onto the school. Every day I'd grab it. Just had those little, you know, and I would have them inside my sweatshirt.
Yeah.
I would just sit in class like this.
Oh, man.
Dude. Everybody was tuned out, and I'm just, oh my God, this is...
This is the reason why I created this podcast, man, for stories like this. This is unbelievable.
And that was it. And then that was it.
That's one of their, like, I mean, all their albums.
That was their commercial one. And then,
the Black one is ridiculous. Like, every song, it's just like...
Needless to say, I mean, I went from that and just went all the way to 82, back to 82, and then, you know, I've been with them ever since. But I've seen them, I don't know how many times. But I've been a concert goer. You know, I love to experience stuff like that, because anything that gets me to vent, you know, and feel free and is something that I need to do.
But the concerts in general have a very unique vibe in them. Like, once I find myself, even if I go to a concert, that I would never like buy an iTunes song from that artist, or in concerts, it's just like, whoo! Like, let's get going here. Mm-hmm. Right? It's just like the crowd is into it, and the live music, there's something about it.
Oh, the ambience there is just incredible. And I mean, if I heard that somebody hadn't gone to a concert ever before, and nowadays it's turning into more festivals and whatnot, which I've had the pleasure of going to, but they get slightly hectic. But it's just something that everybody needs to do. You know, this is another thing. I mean, I started playing drums when I was 5. You know,
you still do?
I still do. The last couple of years, I haven't been playing as much because my younger daughter, you know, she's just coming up too, and she was just born, and the whole banging and everything. But I mean, I played in and out of bands. I remember, you know, in grade 5, we were supposed to start in grade 6 in the band, and they said, we're going to start a year earlier. Pick what instrument you want to play. And just right away, just
boom,
drums.
Like, no brainer,
drums. And then within a few years, grade 7, they brought in a full kit, because I was already running out of like patience. Like, I needed more, and luckily Mr. Morgan, I can't believe wow. he was Mr. Morgan.
Wow.
He
shout out to Mr. Morgan.
Yeah, shout out to Mr. Morgan. he brought in his kit, and he would teach me rather than going to recess. Like, that's the type of kid I was. Mm-hmm. You know, it was like play. If I was shut off once, you know, math came, 5 + 5. Anybody have the answer? I'm like, oh God. Oh God. You know, and then of course they had to pick me, and I'm like 11. And then that's it. Done. Confidence shattered. But you could, anything, daydreaming, drumming, sports, anything like that. That was me. And so that's what got me off. And in high school, I started a band with a couple guys that were just skinhead type, like rockers, hardcore, cool guys. That I went from being like a little sheltered nerd to just
rock and roll motherfuckers.
Yeah, and that was it. That was I got a taste like that, and that's where that transition for me was happening, where my parents were trying to slow me down. Meanwhile, it was like just trying to tell me, yo, let me do this, because when I go out on the court, I'm still hauling ass. But if I don't have, now I'm just this confused kid where it's just like, I'm rebelling now out on the court because I'm not allowed to do the things that I want to be doing.
Yeah. This is where I feel like, just to draw parallels from this generation of juniors and parents, because it got really, like, parents feel the need to control everything, and coaches do as well. Not just to blame the parents, because I feel like I'm catching myself being guilty of that, just to make it super structured, and we talked about it with Dean, where everything is organized for the kids.
I'm completely the opposite.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, I feel like it's too much organized. It's too where's the creativity coming from the kid?
Absolutely. And 10 years ago when I started this, 11 years ago when I started my coaching career, that was one of the biggest hurdles I had to overcome, because I never in my life structured anything, except for when I wake up, I already see the entire day. I already seen it the day before, but I don't write things down. So for me, when I was going into the coaching, it was like, okay, now you apply for a job. The job already is asking me to structure things, and I feel claustrophobic. So it's like, what do? I don't do this. So I always felt, nervous of the fact that I needed to be structured. Fast track, 10 years ahead. If anybody asked me, Rob, do you mind if you write me a, I said, you'll have to go to the next person. People don't ever dare. They just, I'm at a point now where it's like, of course, yearly planning. I do a lot of that, but I'm not to a T to make sure I present, so we run our lives off of that.
That's right.
Well, I have it done. I mean, I did it. I've done it with all my players, just to give a sense. But what I like to do is have open conversations like this. I'm constantly talking to my players, just to make sure we understand where we're going with the day.
But it's more like a vision. What player needs is a vision from a coach that they hired, so they can have the confidence. Okay, this guy, this girl knows what they're doing, and I'm in good hands. And okay, this is where we go, and then we'll adjust. Maybe in 2 weeks it's completely different.
Well, I remember, I've had a lot of players that are like I don't know what type, A type. They've always liked some structure, and when they come in and work with me, it's like, oh wow, I don't, because in my head everything's lined up, but they're used to a certain way, so I had to get used to kind of marrying the two together, and now of course I'm much better at doing a little bit of both, but I strongly believe in making sure that whoever I work with is in charge. So
can you elaborate on
that? I'll use Ashton. Like if he shows up and he doesn't.
Ashton, just for somebody who doesn't know,
he's
16. He's 16 years old. Is he 16?
Ashton's 16.
No,
he's 16.
Yeah, he's 16. Yeah, that's right.
16.
He's 16, and
he's a great player, but I think like a lot of that generation is he's had the privilege of having I guess a lot of opportunity, and he's too young still to realize. So I'll give you an example. We went to Florida 2 years ago, and Lucie was there. So I said to Lucie, at the same time I had Ashton, and I said, this might take a little longer than what we're used to, but the deal was, when Lucie came, was I'm here for Ashton.
Mm-hmm.
Once we're done this tour, you're all mine. And I was going to make the switch back because Lucie and I took a little bit of break, like I do now. You know, like I take a little break, and so it was a learning curve for him because I'd sit in the car, the front door was open. I wouldn't say a word. We're not going, you know? And eventually over the time, it's like he has to go over the steps of closing the door, having his shoes. If we went to the course and he didn't have his shoes, I mean, if you want to play in bare feet, we'll play in bare feet. Otherwise, I guess we missed that practice. But I'm not mad.
You're just okay, just you want to go to
because
Chipotle.
I've done the same,
yeah.
you know? So, but I mean, it gets frustrating, don't get me wrong, but just allowing him to think. But he has to do it all the time, because once you start to do that, it, you know, he goes back into that pattern of just, you know, tuning out, and yeah, everything will be done for me.
What's your thoughts on, because there's a lot of coaches who think completely the opposite way, and I'm just trying to hear you. What's your thoughts on, like, let's say he forgets his shoes, and instead of just letting it go, you make him run suicides?
For what? So you damage his...
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
I don't believe in that.
Okay.
Unless he came and he said, I didn't bring my shoes, fuck you. You know?
Okay.
Then we have a problem. But I try to understand, where's that coming from? I swear, I'm all about trying to understand, because if you don't, the first thing comes in is ego. And it's like, you do what I say when I say,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm older and this is my job and you're to listen to me. And any strong personality type will just look at you eventually. And if you're not the biggest, baddest thing on the face of this planet,
Yeah.
kids nowadays don't have any respect.
They'll rebel. Yeah.
You know, so it doesn't matter. It only lasts a certain amount of time. So I try to stick to my rule where it's just, okay, why? You know, but don't get me wrong. Like, obviously you can tell in my personality, I don't let anybody get away with it. But what I try to do is come around.
Yeah. And a different, yeah.
You know, so it's just, why? You know, and don't get me wrong. I get frustrated, but I try my best to really figure it out before we ever get there. Because what happens is children shut down. I try not to shut down,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because even for me, I'm still working on that for myself. It's like somebody corners me like a rat and I just like shut down. So, you know, I think the easiest way to go about things is just to make sure that they feel like it's okay
Mm-hmm.
to forget things. I forget things too, but why? You know? And then we just go back, and then usually what it is, well, you know, Ashton, love you kid, but you know, he might say, well, my mom, well, no. Why? It's your mom's shoes? You know? Do you want, and you know, what I do with a lot of people too is like, let's say he likes Eminem the rapper, you know, it's like, you look up to Eminem. Yes. Well, does Eminem ask his mom to bring the shoes to the BET Awards? And I can assure you, at 16,
Yeah.
he wasn't asking his mom. So I just try it, you know, and it's just like, the more it's in like this, but I try not to make anybody feel like I'm talking down to them.
Yeah.
Because it's true. I forgot my shoes when I was just starting tennis constantly. And, you know,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know, man. I just happens.
Yeah. And I like that you're giving that space for the kid to figure themselves out, because what you're doing, you're essentially making them ask questions. And it's like, yeah, why did I forget those shoes?
As much as possible. I mean, if you get somebody to do that enough, they figure it out themselves.
Yeah.
And then, you know, what's the saying? Yeah, teach a person to fish, you'll never starve.
Something like I forgot.
We'll never get it, but
well, yeah,
close enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know the one, and I know what you
Right.
getting at,
You know, that's always my philosophy.
Mhm.
If, even out on court, I mean, rather than I give them some of the answers, then I take it back, I make them think, I keep going back and forth. You know, like I said, I got all day.
What motivates you to have all day? Because you're so energetic, you're so willing to give back, like you're saying. And I was reading one of your interviews from a couple years back, and you said that one of the hardest things for a coach, like when he's coming from a playing background, is because the focus is now not on the
Oh my god, somebody liked my photo. Yes. 3 likes. Even though I didn't post anything.
This is the type of shit that I love about you, you know? It's just like spontaneous stuff like this,
Where were we?
where the conversation can go anywhere. That I was reading an article about, not an article, your interview, and you said that it's hard for a player when he's transitioning to being a coach, that the focus is no longer on that person, it's about somebody else. So how do you find that motivation to give back, and what makes you constantly going? Because you're always doing something, and you're always like
Passion,
moving.
my man. Passion for everything.
But why? You know, what's the deeper meaning behind that? What are you after?
That's a good question. That's the $1 million question. I'm still trying to figure that out.
Okay.
Like I said, anything that I do is just a part of what I would normally do on a day-to-day basis. I would never make anything about a job. So the people I surround myself with, you know, where I go in life, what times I'm traveling through the year. I mean, if I'm not interested, I'm not doing it, you know? So I have tons of passions, you know, which allow me to travel, you know, like my film, you know, I've been doing this for years, and it's something that all of a sudden became a thing. And now everybody's, you know, social media, you know, trying to become, I guess, the next best thing. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's quite the opposite. It's just about whatever is in here, getting it out. And so that's basically the way I live every day. You know, if we're out on the tennis court, I really respect the sport. You know, it's something that I think I shut out for so many years, and it's like, man, I don't even like tennis. You know, it's like I went through this period through my 20s and then eventually caught it. It's just like, man, I don't even like tennis. But it's like, I remember now, if I think back, hitting the ball by myself. Before tennis was even a thing to me,
Mm-hmm.
I had a tennis racket, and I was just like trying to beat the wall, and then just handball, and everything had to do with tennis and sports, and so yeah, it's just I respect the sport, so I have so much fun, and then it's finding the player that I just want to hang out with.
Yeah.
You know, so Dennis was a kid that, you know, the last one from Lucie is like, how do you top Lucie? And I had a number of cool, interesting offers or inquiries, and then out of nowhere, boom, Dennis, and that one to me was like, I think he's a cool kid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think he's a cool kid. I relate to him, and I think I can do good, you know, and really shed my experiences with him. And then, you know, and it becomes a whole package. It's like, now you're just doing everything you normally would do with that one dude, you know, and the team.
Yeah.
And so I just really enjoy being around people and talking. And
That's very
sharing
inspirational, just that lifestyle, because you essentially saying that like I'm always doing what I like doing, and if there's something that bothers me, I'm out.
I'm
Like,
out.
that's it, because there's no passion, there's no motivation. It's not gonna last even like a day. Out. See ya. Not
And don't get me
interested.
wrong, through the years I had to grind. There were so many things that I didn't like, but then eventually, when you do, I mean, you hear it. It's so cliche to say, but everybody says the same thing. Find something just that you're passionate about and just do it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I had to eat shit for many years.
Yeah.
There were so many things that I didn't really enjoy doing, but I did it. And when I did it the best I could.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever came out of it, I made the most of it, and so, now it's just, I'm fortunate now as you get older, and especially with 2 kids and, beautiful wife, family, like I just, there's no way that if I don't enjoy what I do,
Yeah.
I'm going to sacrifice that.
Of course.
Because I didn't do it back then, basically when I had nothing, so it's just, now it's, you find the formula. It's like, like right now, you ask me, what am I going to do? I don't know. Right now, I love working with Ashton. But I have said that when the time comes, when the right thing kind of falls onto my lap, which, starting, and when that happens, and I know that that's when I sacrifice, because my family's going to, I guess, get thrown to the dogs. But then I start a new chapter of, just something else that I'm interested in. Like, I can't tell you, I love being in the park with Ashton, working and going to these tournaments and like talking, hanging with his family. And we just did a charity event for his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's just all stuff that comes with me, and I love being a part of the family, getting hired. And that's what I do. Like, that's what I do.
Yeah.
Can
you talk about, because you've had, and we discussed it, a number of success stories with different players. Can you talk about Lucie and her being, well, the pinnacle probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, was the French Open final. Like, what was it like to bring her to that level? What was again, you don't have to get into like too much details if you don't want to talk about it, but like, what was the key to making that jump?
Getting her to win the first tournament. These are the interesting things that you don't realize when you're coaching. I didn't really know what I was doing fully back then with her. You get this opportunity, and I've been this type of person that I'm the bigger, the badder, the more pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I want it. I want to see, because I fear failure, so I want success, but I also don't give a shit if I fail, right? So I throw myself in there. Mm-hmm. Went in, figured it out, because I'm good at figuring stuff out.
Yeah. It comes back to those experiences that you just want to go over that fence and see what's out there, and because that gives you that ability to kind of adapt.
It's the right speed for me, because if I'm not stimulated, then I'm on autopilot. Yes. And then I just tank.
Oh,
I mean, that's it's like,
yes,
and that's where I've done it in the past. It's just why? Okay, Rob, listen, get off your phone. I'm like, I know, man. That's why I don't put myself in these scenarios anymore, because it's not. I'm not trying to do that. I don't want to do this, so it's not cool. So I really haven't had to do that, but I've had through the years little bits, but I've been smart enough to either somebody just fire me, or I just somehow get out of it. But getting back to Lucie, it's just like I said, it's just the formula of what I do: assess, relate, and then start to pinpoint where it is that I want to start to tackle, what I feel is most important. Now, I don't go off of a chart. I just go by feel, straight feel.
That's right.
And on a day to day, hour to hour, and just every experience. So I've just been a person of feel, and so I store that. I guess it's a lot of emotion. So I feel what they're going through, how I would feel. And so we, all that said, leading up to what I didn't know was the most important thing for a player was to win her first WTA title, which she had done that very early in her career when she was maybe 17 or something. She won a WTA event, which was like 10 years prior. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering, we're getting better and better, but she's in and out of this commitment of herself and her game, and we couldn't catch it. And we were going like 6 months into our working relationship, and she had been getting better and better. Mm-hmm. But because I didn't have that experience, so to speak, I felt it, so I could see it, and I was directing her, but I couldn't tell her from experience, like, it's okay, this is what we're going to be doing, which I kind of did with Dennis. But then again, it's also a new, fresh team, and it was a thing about trust. It's hard to get everybody to buy into something, but I knew where this was going, type thing. But with her, it was like you get to that point, all of a sudden she's in the finals. I'm stoked, she's stoked, but she's still so nervous. She squeaks the win. Should have lost, shoulda, coulda, every single match. Yeah, like a lot of them. I didn't have to say a word after that. 5-6 weeks of just fire tennis. Everything that we had been working on, just boom, clicks. Didn't have to say it. Then I realized, because this is being a little inexperienced, didn't ask, when was the last time you won a tournament? Like that type of stuff, that dialogue that the more mature players have, coaches, sorry. And it just, a light bulb went off. It's just, she didn't believe that she could do what she was already been doing, but was told from an early age, you'll never do this, but you have to do this. So she just couldn't connect it. When she connected that, everything that we were doing catapulted, and then made sense to me that, oh my God, thank God I'm doing a good job. Because you get to that point always in a relationship where it's like, I don't know, maybe if it doesn't click, I'm fired, like maybe it's just me. But then you realize that you are doing a good job. So as a coach, I was able to give myself a pat on the back. Now she patted me on the back, which, I mean, this could be a whole other podcast of explaining how she had given me the confidence in my coaching and my ability, and off the court too. But she helped me tremendously. I mean, really. How? But how? She was always the one that was there for me when we would chat after losses, even though, she could see that I was trying to figure things out. She's like, everything's good, and that to me was enough to stop the voices of trying to figure things, Yeah. And so, that's what a mature, experienced type of player would do. That's selfless, right? Yeah. She's, she was looking out for my best interest, so she really helped me get through a lot. And I'll never forget it. It's just, she was the only player, really, that after a tournament we'd come back and we'd gain success, and it's like she goes ecstatic because she knows what she has accomplished. I have no clue. Like I'd get back and I'm like, wow, this is great, but like I gotta do more, man. I gotta do more. But I'm telling Lucie at the same time, you've just accomplished a massive thing. Like, I'm so proud of you, but you've overcome this. And nobody ever tells the coach, dude, you don't realize that you just did this. And then that didn't make sense. I'm getting bombarded with now, interviews and asking my methods like this. And it's like, but I don't even know really But then it wasn't until she really kind of made things clear, you know, and then you really do believe. And now, you know,
and then it catapults your confidence, and then
Yeah.
it's just like
because now,
the
you know,
relationship gets better.
because now you put everything together, you know. Now it's not just, oh man, I think people will figure out that I'm a fraud, you know, like that's out on the road, because everybody wants to eat you up. They just, and that's what I like about the road, you know, even with whether you're competing as a player or a coach, it's just dog eat dog. And it's just constantly go. So
that's
you
what
always
keeps you always in motion.
yeah,
Like you
but
cannot-
a lot of people can't handle that, and so for me it was it's always trying to prove, trying to chase, but after her finding the balance, like she was always like, you can take a break, it's cool.
It's all about the balance in the end. Eh?
Yeah.
We talked
So
about
she
it,
was
man.
yeah, you know, and I've you know, but I've been fortunate to, you know, work with all kinds of players that kind of gave me that, but it was more about themselves.
Yeah.
That was
Not directly like expressing and turning things
this
around
one
like
was
this.
like, yeah, this one I tell you, it's I think every coach's dream to work with a diamond in the rough that has your best interest.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're like, what do you mean me? What? Me? No, it's you. And you go back and forth like that. And then you're just
That's
like,
right.
you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to fucking go home for 6 months because I want to help you so bad.
Yeah.
And my family is totally cool with that. And it just like,
Yes.
you become one.
Yeah.
And then everything just,
And it's like a snowball effect. It just
Yeah.
keeps rolling and rolling and rolling because you want to give back, and she wants to give back, and that's when you see success stories.
and I think probably that's what you were talking about earlier, is like that's what I'm always chasing, you know, like the relationship that brings two together like that, and you just become symbiotic,
Yeah.
you know, and you just have this super cool organic relationship, and it's not a job, like,
Yeah.
you know, that she's retired, and you know, she's doing all these throwbacks on Instagram, and it opens up all these old memories, you know, and it's just crazy to think. I think I responded one time just saying, you know, it was so serious, like it was crazy, like crazy. I can't even tell you how much work we did, and like the process and planning and traveling and arguing and everything, but really we just were two buddies traveling,
Having fun, working
like
towards the same goal.
you know, and we both got it, you know, we didn't have everybody telling which way to go. Like, I love that girl, dude. I can't tell you enough. Like, we had the best time because, you know, she's 5 in the world. Everybody was coming after her, whether it was a player, agents now talking, because we're so close, and we were just at the right time in our careers and life that we had just full confidence in each other. So,
Yeah.
you know, people are trying to tell her things like, you know, everybody's trying to tell her, you know, what I got over here is best, you know, and she would come right away like, this clown is talking, like, you know, and I'm
so
like,
you just discuss it and
no,
just
we would just joke the whole time,
just roast it and have
yeah,
fun.
and I'd say you should tell me what he said, like write notes because we're gonna use them. Like it was a riot, man, because when you have that trust, you know, your job is always on the line, but when you have their best interest,
Yeah.
and that trust like this, what a strong unit.
Yeah, once they realize that you're actually here,
you know, like
to help.
any player that I work with, it's like, trust me, I don't like to fail. We might go a little bit up and down, but I'm pretty good at what I do. And I just say this only because I've learned through so much. But if I can't get 100%. And usually my players, I always know they're right there with me. It's just outside noises.
Mm-hmm.
The younger they are, they
That's right. They tend to like gravitate to.
That's why I've always stayed older, but I'm trying to crack in a little bit. I like the newer.
Yeah.
But newer comes with, you know, just more noise and they're not able to filter.
But teams are bigger these days. Also,
Yeah.
like if you look at players, it's you're saying that you and Lucie, there were just two people in the team, but there was such a strong.
There's more. I mean, credit to her family and physical trainers and Fed Cup captains, and there was so much
Of
there.
course.
But it wasn't the traveling day-to-day.
That's what I mean.
Team of 6.
Yeah, right now, like you get the top player, like they're traveling with, like you're saying, 5-6 players.
And everybody knows everything. It's crazy.
You cannot.
I don't give a shit about speaking openly about hearing all of this noise around. It's just like that is the thing that comes with that job. Is no matter head coach, whoever's on the team, head coach, you know, there's just so much that goes in and, you know, trying to figure it all out and balance all of that is tricky. So, you know, wins talk. That's it.
At the end of the day.
End of the day. Winning. Win, even down in practice.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have somebody that's understood the process. But if it's anybody that's climbing, a win's a win. Anytime that you lose, even in practices, it's just that's truly what, you know. I was working with Carol today too. Carol is coming back from injury. You've spent lots of time with her, Ashton, and it's like, really, I spent a little bit of time with Carol. Break it down. Why are you going to Ashton's backhand better, creating more opportunity, dumb it down, forehand. Now, you don't need your backhand, so when he hits to your backhand, slice. But as your forehand's warming, we're going to use your forehand more. She picks it up, then we go back to Ashton, we break it down like this. But I don't have that pressure of like, if you don't win and hold serve, I'm fired. Like, that's what it's like out on the road, because that creates a snowball effect with players that aren't mature enough yet, you know, or haven't gone through the process. But little by little, it chips, gets away closer to the tournament, earlier exit, do a few of those, you're done.
Yeah.
So I've been through every single pattern numerous times, and so that's the pace. I keep going back to that pace. It's like, if you're good at just when to say it, only, you know, just, you'll stop them, think about what serve, and getting them like this so they hold that game. You don't know how important it is, but as long as they're going, you know, I used to do this with Dennis too, making sure that practices, even though he's playing wretched that day, not for any, you know, it is what it is. As long as he goes out 7-6 and not throw in a 6-0, because 6-0 is just, you got really quite a lot of questions. But keeping it close, and then more often than not, he was hammering those sets out in his favor. But okay, get him to understand that, you know, it's okay to miss this and go 7-5 with this play, but you were getting better at this. We'll package this for tomorrow, open it up a little bit. So, but that always gave him momentum. So you try to do that with every player, you know, but working with Carol and Ashton off tour in that setting, you don't have that pressure. Yeah. So it's, you know, a little easier.
It's very chill. It's like driving that Cadillac.
Yeah, we went for a good Cadillac ride right after that. Those berries are delicious.
Oh, man.
I'm going to sneak one more.
Yeah. You can do 2 more.
I'm cut off. I don't want to get fat.
Can you do 1 more?
But
Do it closer to the mic.
For you.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to hate me much.
Anyway.
So stupid.
Anyway, speaking
were
about stupid things and fun things, not stupid really, but your brand, Tennis Cool.
Yeah.
Because it's controversial and all that stuff. Can you talk about what made you create it and where you at with it and what's your vision for it?
Well, I mean, shoot. Organically kind of took shape, I guess, 2 years ago. Really with my, my best buddy, Connor Casey. We've been friends playing together since we were kids. And everybody has that one friend that, you kind of go the distance with, and we both were, tennis fanatics, dropouts, and creatives. Mm-hmm. And we've kind of had the same path, and we've just been fortunate enough to just understand each other. So it was just only natural that we kind of put something together, and that's obviously Connor and myself.
That's right.
That's our logo. That's kind of how it started. But I was doing my thing out on the road. He's a professional actor, writer, director, and and like I said, ex-tennis player. But he was also a great coach, still is. But he focuses more on the Hollywood aspect of things. Mm-hmm. Now he's a writer, but we just bounce ideas off of each other, and he would always help me with the stuff that I was doing out on the road, and then he was asking me about his career, and we just had an open relationship like that. And then all of a sudden I was always doing the videos, and they kind of progressed into what they are now, and he was looking to get a little more creative, but he was also still heavily involved with tennis. And so we formed Tennis Cool because we wanted to bring our ideas to the tennis world. Like everybody, I guess, at some point in their life wants to have some sort of voice. But we said, rather than wait for somebody to ask us what our vision is, mm-hmm. we're just going to do it, mm-hmm. And I was already doing that, so to speak, with some of the content that I was doing. But then we, once we partnered up, there was a lot more direction on some of the, the videos that we started to do, because they started to take shape with a writer's background. So we started to develop skits, and we started to tackle, projects for Tennis Canada and other tennis clubs and events and stuff. And so I guess the what did you put in? Sorry, I lost my train of thought about 3 minutes ago when it started, and I started thinking, what is in these? Imagine
there's like an alien popping out.
If you wanted my pants, you should have just asked. I know you're after that bandana. Or is it the shoes?
It's everything.
Okay, but in a nutshell, Tennis Cool is just an outlet for us. And it's a great way to try to shake things up in the tennis world. Everything is so prim and proper, and you get the same type of answers. And I think that now that we're in a creative era where social media is on I guess everywhere, and access to anybody, so anybody has a voice. And so we're just there to make fun and light of what tennis really is, and the truth behind everything. And then we have informative projects that we do, and the reality of the behind the scenes. And lately, we've been, I guess, took a step back from really what we were doing a couple of years ago, because I got so busy with my project on the road. So I kind of sugar-coated things with a lot of the players that I was with, and just kind of doing the behind the scenes, like a lot of the stuff that you watch with Dennis. But it's also an avenue, because what I used it for was always to kind of get my athletes into a different mindset, to build character. I've never put that on any of my players. It's always been my players' interest to kind of tag along into what I'm doing, and especially in recent years, since I guess the videos have gotten to a level where, you know, the production level is very high, and I guess they're well respected, and they have good direction. So you know, everybody kind of wanted to jump on board, and everybody's been a good sport.
Where can you buy it if somebody's interested?
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, I haven't even tackled, like, you're talking about the clothing, because I was talking about content based.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah. So we formed a way of advertising, which is Connor's the artist, and he'd always been drawing. So what we tried to do was advertise via t-shirts that, quote unquote, weren't for sale. And we had a slogan, you know, because everybody's asking, where can we get them? And it's like, these t-shirts, not for sale, you know. So we made a, you know, just a fun run with that for an entire summer last summer. But they became a thing because people were asking.
I mean, that's the first question I have. Just by you talking about the concept of the brand, because it's so fascinating. You're saying about your philosophy, and I'm like, I'm on it. Like, I want to be on board. I want to support it.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, that's basically what we created it for. Is you know, the t-shirts just became a different way of getting the brand out there, and to kind of shed light on what tennis really is. It's fun, you know. I mean, it's, at the end of the day, it's a sport. And I think our approach is the only way we know, you know. It's to have fun, to make, you know, jokes about, but, you know, the hard times that really happen in tennis, and try to make them fun. So, you know, the reality is, you know, we all fight with our demons, and so we made up, you know, a new dark line. That all of the artwork that's on is kind of our inner demons and what we're dealing with. And so all of the artwork leans heavily into, you know, the not sleeping and wondering if our opponents are doing more than what we're doing, and getting to match point, and going through that inner dialogue of not trusting ourselves enough. And so that's really what the t-shirts are geared towards, that, to promote what our content is. And what we've really been trying to go down a route where we actually got approached by World Team Tennis, which is the organization that does the events in the summer right after Wimbledon, to design their logos, have Tennis Cool the brand. And then I was talking to them about, they want to open up a team in 2020 in Toronto, have me be the coach. I would do the content side for that team and promote it that way.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, you know, we don't know where Tennis Cool is going, just like you don't know where this podcast is going. But, you know, if you ask me 10 years ago, when I really was, I mean, I had done film before that in university. And looking back at me being the creative through the years, and now being where I am now, it's interesting, because I don't know where it's going, but I feel that that's my contribution at some point. So if I can continue, you know, working with great players, pulling great results, learning, growing, and trying to grow this, which is whatever's going on inside my head, which is more work for me and for Connor and everything like that. But we have so many more people that are wanting to be on board. So we have now, you know, somebody that we're working with behind the scenes that wants to be a business partner, that's going to form what we were talking about, a structure, which I don't, you know,
Yes.
I do what I do, but
Yeah.
the structure part of it is what's lacking for it to become a proper business to grow. And then from there, we've been talking to distributors and actual stores, clothing stores that have approached and want to partner and brand with us.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot is to come. I just took a little break the last, I'd say, a couple months.
Okay. But listen.
But the back end stuff of all of that is still in the works very much. So.
But for sure, listen, as soon as it goes somewhere where you can buy it, just let me know.
You can buy it. We actually just took it off. We had a Shopify, but I mean, I don't know. We've probably sold 60, 70 shirts, and they were way too overpriced. Mm-hmm. My apologies to anybody that ever did buy them. It it's going through that process of really, we didn't know what we were doing because it's not our price. It's not like we're getting t-shirts for $3.99 right. and pricing them at what we want to price at. It's people wanted the product. Like, let's say yourself, where can I buy them? Well, a lot of the time we just hand them out and do what we do, but that costs us,
of course,
$40-$50.
But that's what I mean.
And we don't know when you want one, and the next time, when are we going to see you? So do we go make you one, and then maybe you don't really? So it's like it was this weird thing. So we made a Shopify, and we had Notion Studios. That's I guess the biggest t-shirt branding company that works in Toronto, and we collaborated with them, and so you could buy them online for $50, but the shirts were purchased at $30 plus the $10 for the print, and so at the end of the day, we're making, we're losing money, you know, but people were able to purchase, but our overhead just to cover the costs every month and all that. Eventually, Connor and I, after I had stopped traveling a couple months ago, we just said, why don't we just put that on hold? We do what I haven't been able to do is the back end work with the investors, and not investors, partners, because investors want money back. These people want to partner, and we like it more like that because it's a win-win for everybody if it grows.
They just want to be part of it because they're on board with the idea. Even I can't tell you how many people out on tour were asking, can we be a part of that? Oh, for sure. I for sure.
And the funny thing is like I speak for myself. I don't even know what to tell them. It's like, absolutely, but I don't know, like, what would you be doing right now? But 2 years ago, we didn't have anything. Now I've done so many meetings and building and stuff to where it's actually a thing. So now this thing can grow, and then people can be ambassadors, and we'll figure all of that out as we go. But at the end of the day, it's, you know, like this event that's coming up in this summer, but the world team does, but it would be 2020 for us. It's more of that.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, and doing the content side, and that's what we kind of want to do is you know, you got ESPN, TSN, Eurosport. I'm great friends with everybody in all those networks, but they're their own network. You know, in WTA, ATP, I've worked personally with building content for them and collaborating, but they're their own. And so Tennis Cool eventually can be their own, where it's a company where we're hired outside and we collaborate, but we're our own thing, rather than me just kind of doing everything, and because I'm with a player and it works easily. But eventually I'd like to get to that point where, you know, who knows? I don't know, but it's bigger than just.
But don't we all strive to do that? That's the whole point of what we do in life. We want to get ownership of and control kind of what we're doing. Like, we want to be independent. We strive to, you know, to be as much on our own as possible. Not in a selfish way, but you know what? Just to self-realize.
Here, before I forget, it's one of these things. Tennis Cool is you. It's me. It's everybody. I mean, people have their own thing, but I feel that you would be a perfect candidate for Tennis Cool, and that's what I think my vision is for the company is for everybody that's looking for change, for growth, you know, uncertain of what is out there and they want to take a chance, that's tennis cool.
Yeah.
And I think that I would like to be able to give that. So how am I able to do that? It's obviously to grow, because I think a lot of new faces, coaches, players, all of that are tennis cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like tennis cool stands for
next
gen, you know, and even coaches. That's what I was referring to before when people are sending me messages. I wish I could just, you know, be myself. Dude, just do it. You can be yourself. I think by being yourself, maybe you might lose a job if it's just the wrong fit for you, because if you're trying to be this other person, but you're even a better person, which you're telling me, then do it. But maybe the ones that are already set, it's not their time. But for people who are trying to figure it out, that's, again, you naughty little pig. Trying to get away. Not so easy.
No, from that guy.
But I think you know where I'm going with this. It's could Tennis Cool provide that for other people? Answers, you know, join and maybe we'll show you the way. I don't know. You know, be awesome. A part of that, and maybe, you know, I would be very surprised if a lot of fresh new faces coaching in 10, 15 years isn't doing what, you know, you're doing or what I'm doing. Because, I mean, nobody out on tour is driving around with the camera and creating their own content and branding and everything. But I feel that, you know, every young gen is snapping pictures and posting and doing all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so where does that lead? Does that lead to, no, I never did that. So we're just, you know, when they become coaching, you know, role models.
Well, it's a standard at that point when they're going to be growing. Like this generation, when they're growing up, it's going to be like, well, I'll just keep doing whatever. Yeah.
So I fully embraced it. I was told, you know, for many years that it's, what are you doing? You're still that little boy. Like, you know how many times I heard that? Yeah, put your little toy away. It's like, dude.
But life is a game, man. Like we're here to fool around, to have fun. It goes back and loop our conversation in a way, but because that's all we're doing. We're chasing happiness. Yeah. And what other than like silly stuff like this is going to make us happy?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So hopefully that silliness leads to making others, I think.
Oh, for sure.
Happy, and also I'm struggling to find a word for,
just be brave, you know, and to express themselves, I guess, because that's what the brand...
Finding themselves. Yeah, is kind of, you know, like finding themselves. Because I think that a lot of coaching, you know, players turn into coaches and at pivotal moments like that. And I would love to be able to educate the next gen of educators and all of that type of stuff, because there's lots of that. And I've always been asked to speak at bigger events, but it's always the same type of formula. And I feel that I'm just speaking alien.
Yeah.
You know, but people are interested now, but it comes with creating results. So you have to kind of believe, and it just goes back to full circle on what we've been talking about.
That's right.
But if more do that, I think that if we have more coaches that really speak that language, speak more language to the youth, and everybody builds and everybody gets used to that new wave of personality that's coming, that's here.
Yeah.
You know,
what I get by knowing you and by talking to you today especially is you live and breathe by that motto to motivate and inspire, because even your clothing brand and even your videos, it's all about that. It's all about making an impact on one person at a time and just trying to make them better in their own special way.
And that's what Tennis Cool really is I'm a one-man band, but Tennis Cool can reach many, many more. So I've always been striving, how do I help more and more? Because at the end of the day, you know, the way it used to be structured still kind of is when you get asked like something like this, you get more. But the way I've structured it is I just put out my own I build my own stuff and then reach more. And eventually, hopefully, like you know, one day maybe you're wearing tennis cool, because that's kind of where we're going. We're going to be mass producing and getting into that stuff. So people will
I'd buy for sure.
That, you know, sponsoring, so that type of stuff. And then the more we can build, it becomes this thing where it's not just me talking.
Yes.
I think that's where, you know, it snowballs into that. And at the end of the day, it's just trying to help others grow the sport, you know, educate, and I think just have what has been my reality and many others, but nobody has a voice.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. No, having a voice is important. Having a strong one, as long as you have
a deep one,
like this.
That's a soft one.
Well, yeah.
I don't have a deep voice at all.
We can fine tune this in post. No problem. But yeah, having a strong vision for the brand or for yourself, yeah, it's very important for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Rob, I can talk with you for hours just by listening to you, to your experience and all that stuff. But I understand.
Well, I know you're kicking me out, but I'm going to take one more beer before I go.
Oh, please do. But honestly, I really appreciate you coming here.
Thanks for having me. I was stoked. I was stoked to come.
Dude, so many great insights, and just like the conversation just flows, and I have never
we're going to be the only two that
because it's almost like 2 hours.
Yeah, everybody tuned out about 38 hours ago.
But really, it didn't feel like it's a planned thing, and that's the whole point.
No, you know what? Just before I go, I really enjoyed this. This has been my first open mic type thing, because usually I'm drilled with questions.
Okay. You can see, like, there's no papers, there's no scenario. No. It's just like boom,
and it's amazing.
Let's talk about it.
It's amazing. It really, it feels good just to talk, and you got good direction. I wish you the best of luck. I really do think that you have something going. I think you should be on the next guest. And really trying to push yourself to keep going, because guests will really enjoy this.
Yeah, awesome.
And then the best, this will grow and everything. Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Spread the love.
Yeah. Spread the love. I really appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot for coming.
Yeah, man. Serious.